Okay, let me stop. Hello, ladies and gents. Romie Reviews here. Please like, comment, subscribe. Oh yeah, I saw it. I saw Us this past weekend, Sunday actually, and I have to say, this was one of those movies where I figured I wasn't gonna go to the movies twice to watch it, so I actually made sure to watch it to understand, not just for entertainment. So if you're gonna go and watch it, if you haven't seen it yet, make sure that you go and make sure that you understand that close to the first half of the movie of sorts, it's setting everything up, and that's where most of the clues are. So that's why it may just feel like a regular movie and you may not feel suspense or anything, because it has to set you up. Because the other half is just Looney Tunes. So here's the general premise. I'm going to do this in like 2 minutes and then we'll talk about other stuff. The general premise is that there was this government program where they cloned humans. Originally they were cloning rabbits, and they cloned humans, and these humans were called the tethered because they were supposed to mimic what they were actually supposed to control the humans up top. That didn't work. Instead, they just became, copies that were mindlessly, moving around in this bunker underneath the city, underneath America, I should say. And for a long time, they were just doing whatever the original people were doing. Now, until one of them got out. Like I said, huge spoiler alert. Huge spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Lupita Nyong'o's character, what was it, Anadil? She was actually the tether, the clone. When she was a young girl, she wandered off into this, house of mirrors, and she got switched out with her clone. And her clone lived her life, married her husband, and so, Red, as we call her, or Anadil, Red, who was the original, wanted to get revenge because she had to live out this horrible version of her life due to the fact that, like I said, she was switched out. And she takes her family to go and attack Anadil's family. There's a huge tussle, huge fight. Red essentially loses, and only Anadil's son realizes that, hey, something's off with my mom. Like, I don't know if she's actually the original. Yes, she's my mom, but is she the original? And there were certain signs. Whenever there was a fight or a tussle, she would make certain sounds that didn't sound human. The way how she fought, the fact that she knew that they were there for her, and the whole thing was apparently in the 1986. There's this whole thing of Hands Across America, this like marketing initiative or program, and where to unite the country. And there's a whole lot to this movie. I don't want to give like a full synopsis because you can watch it at other places. Here are some things that I want to point out. When Red's family came along and wanted to seek revenge on Anadil's, she handcuffed Anadil, and that was symbolic because technically Anadil, who really should have been Red, but Anadil went and handcuffed Red when she was younger to the downstairs place so that she can go and take over her life. The bunnies, like I said, those were, as far as I know, those were clones, even though the tethered, which were the clones, ate the bunnies. That's all they had is nutrients and nourishment. I mean, their life sucked. Once the government program ended, so did any type of guidance for them. And it looks like Red was the one who went and rallied them. There was a lot of questions about why was it so clean down there if they seemed animalistic. That was probably because of Red. Red was probably telling them, hey, do this, do that, because they listened to her. Because they realized that she was different. She was different because she really wasn't one of them. She really wasn't one of them. That's why she was different. While we have all that going on, now we have to worry about... Let's talk about Gabe. Gabe was hilarious. At first, I said, "Why is this dude so goofy?" But then I realized it's because he's portraying a different type of black man and different type of black father. He is like an affluent, or I should say, privileged black man who didn't have the regular, upbringing that most black men have. So he was a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more goofy, a little bit more fun. Excuse me. And even when the other family came along, the Tethers came along, Red decided that, what in the world is she doing? Red decided that not Red, Gabe, when he went outside the house, he was like, "Oh, you want to talk about crazy? Then we can get crazy." And I was just looking at, even when he tried to go and be tough, he couldn't because that's not him. It really isn't. He did stupid stuff with the fight scenes. He ended up winning, but he did stupid stuff during the fight scenes, and he was envious of his neighbor who had a nicer car, who had a bigger boat, and all of that. But it's like, hey, you have more than what the average black person has, and yet you're still envious. And that brings us to another point about, when Red did her speech and how Red was saying that, we are America. We are America. She was doing this like speech, and I believe it's two things with her voice. I know a lot of people are saying that, oh, because she was down there so long and no one talked, then she didn't use her voice much, so that's why I got messed up. But you have to remember, the Anadil, who's technically the actual clone, went and choked her out. So her vocal cords were also crushed. So that's my thing as far as why her voice was so messed up. And then we go from that to the whole concept of, I'm sure you've heard this before, but this movie definitely talked about classism. That was a huge thing in this movie. That was a major, important thing in this movie, where the poor, the oppressed, the less knowledgeable, so the Tethers, they didn't have a formal education. They couldn't even talk. They couldn't express themselves because, that's a form of power, being able to talk, being able to express themselves. They were just moving around because technically the original had the soul. And so the Tether, if you look at it, the Tether is the poor or disenfranchised, and then everyone up top are the privileged, first world problems all the way, even if they're poor, compared to the Tethers. Because also, again, reminds you that someone always has it worse. Someone always has it worse, and this is what happens when you don't make it your mission to make sure that people who need help, who need assistance, that don't have as much as you, that when you turn a blind eye, eventually they will revolt. Eventually, they'll go and take what they feel is theirs. And I think that was a very important message. I thought that it was very obvious. If you look at civilization after civilization, that's how it is. After a while, people aren't just going to go and lay down and let you do whatever they want to them forever. At some point, they're going to not only acknowledge and accept the fact that, hey, this is a really messed up situation, they're going to understand that they can do something about it. And they need someone to rally behind. So they rallied behind Red. And that's when we get that. That's when they start killing their the originals, so that there can only be one type of montage. There can only be one. Imagine if Red and Anadil went to technically exposed the government program and did all this stuff. Imagine how different things would have been. Imagine. Also, when talking about the privilege, it's kind of saying how the privileged are sheep, because didn't even realize that they, not only were all of them cloned, or in that area, they were all cloned. They could have been being mind controlled if, the government's plan worked out as far as the movie's concerned. And that's also another big message. Let's talk about Lupita. I won't say stole the show, because she was the show. She was the show. Her character was really the central point. And I thought it was interesting a couple of things. She kind of went along to get along when it came to her relationship and her marriage up until the fighting commenced and all the foolery occurred, because that's when things took a turn. That's when she stopped, as she would say, just allow her husband to go and run the show. She was like, "You don't control me anymore. You don't run this anymore." And when she said that, I was like, huh? And that was her way of saying, hey, you are doing too much, and what you're doing isn't enough, because she understands them. The fact that she understood everything that was going on, that's when I knew, oh, she's one of them. One of them. But Lupita, going back from Red to Anadil, I mean, it was insane. From the voice, I can't even do that. I don't want to mess up my voice. But what she was doing with the voice, and how when she was fighting herself, I said, wait a minute now. What type of mess is this? You're fighting yourself. Okay. To fighting herself, to what else is going on? I noticed how close she was to the tethered children, and how she, was showing them such compassion. And again, there were so many obvious clues that I felt like you don't realize that she is like really. And then let's talk about Jason. Jason and his tether. Jason was one of those rare special people that had the ability to control his tether, or partially be influenced by his tether, because Jason, throughout the movie, even his sister, when his sister was talking to those really bratty twins, was saying how her brother's always just been different. And he was obsessed with fire. Well, I shouldn't say he was obsessed with fire. He was obsessed with playing with basically like this lighter thing. He started cursing, and I was looking at him like, okay, why does it seem like he's not really sure what's going on? And that was because he was partially being controlled. He was partially, that was the weird part. He was partially being controlled, being influenced. He probably didn't even realize it. But he realized he had control and had power when he was able to get his tether to go and kill himself. And by, stepping into the fire. But yeah, Jason, he was a young kid. There wasn't a whole lot to him. It really came into play when his tether came around. So let's move on to Zora. I believe her name is Zora, and her tether. So Zora is, what you think, the normal, black teen girl. And she was always on her phone, always listening to music, well behaved, track and field star. And did anyone thought it was kind of weird how I thought that she was taking a long time to run down the driveway? I don't know if she was like trying to see where she was going, but I noticed that. And then her tether, booked it. I'm like, what is going on here? What is off with these children? What is going on? And then when she tried to run over her tether, and homegirl was not having it, but then she stepped on the brakes, went flying, basically split in half. It was a mess. And then when Zora was attacking the twins, I should say the twins' tether, I was looking at this like, what is going on here? Because she was just beat. I said, you better do it. And when I tell you, people in the movie theater were quiet most of the time during this movie, because the whole time you're thinking like, wait a minute, what's going on? For some reason, I didn't think that everyone would have a twin, a copy, a clone, I should say, a tether. For some reason, I wasn't thinking that was going to be the case. So when it was, I was like, what the heck is going on here? What is going on? What the... No. So that threw me off. That threw me off for a little bit. And then, what else? What else was interesting? The White family being killed, and being killed quickly. I was a little shocked by that because it was just happening random. And then when the wife was trying to call for the police, so when the wife was trying to call for the police, and then uh, it said, you know, bleep the police. The song, NWA song, bleep the police. Came on with the bootleg Alexa or Google Home. I was done. I said, "What? What? Really?" That was funny. And then when the white family's tethers went and grabbed Annandale, I said, "What is going on here? What is happening?" There was so much that was so funny in this movie, and I know it was suspense and horror, but it was also a comedy. Like anytime Gabe was talking, I was laughing. When he was in that, why would they put Winston Duke in that full size bed? Why would they do that? For comedic purposes. That's why. He occupied the entire bed. They gave him the cheap boat. But thankfully that saved his life, because when he was fighting his tether, the good thing about that boat being cheap was the motor would shut off randomly, but he knew if he hit it hard enough, the motor would start back. So that's why he purposely pushed himself into the motor to hit it, to restart it, so that his tether would get chopped up. I know there was a couple of scenes in this movie where they kind of panned out, so you had to kind of really look deep and look and try to figure out what the heck was going on. That happened multiple times, especially with his scenes. I noticed anytime it was like his killing, it wasn't up close, and it was like fast. Like when he killed his friend's tether, and we really didn't see that either. We just kind of heard the sound, and I'm just like, again, that was a sound from the movie. I'm not making fun of people who do that in real life. But yeah. What else threw me off? Oh, the 11:11 scripture, and how the man who we saw at the boardwalk was killed, and it was actually done by his clone, by his tether, and how Jason actually met that guy a long time. Jason was a weird kid. But then again, if you think about it, Jason and Zora were technically both half tether. So they can't fully be all the way right in the head because of that. If you really think about it. Winston was just a regular guy. He was a regular privileged black guy who, I like the fact that they showed that aspect. We didn't need, Lupita was the Bamf. We didn't need two Bamfs. It worked out better for him, not taking her too seriously, and her kind of taking over and saying, this is what we're doing, this is how we're moving. That fight scene between Red and I said, oh, that was good. That was good. She was doing like the ballet moves, swing move. I said, if they kill Annandale and she tries to take back her life, I'm done. But that's why I was looking at Jason. I'm thinking, Jason, it doesn't matter. Your mother is the clone, but now the original is dead, and you were birthed by the clone. So you're just going to have to get over it. You're just going to have to get over it, my dear. What else happened? Oh, I like the intro of the movie where it started off with a young Annandale. And it was her birthday, and her mother was cool, but her father was drinking. I think it kind of sounded like maybe he didn't have like a stable job or something, but it seemed like maybe the mom did, because they didn't look poor or anything. Because even when after the incident occurred, and first off, I'm thinking, how long was the father playing that dang game and not looking after his daughter for them for him to initially realize? Because I think they said, she was, missing for an hour max. I think that's what was said. A lot can happen in 5 minutes. So an hour? And it's your child? Really? Okay. But But yeah, her father, I guess, because after that incident, she wasn't talking. But now we understand it was because that wasn't their, original daughter. That was the clone. That's why she couldn't talk. She didn't know how to talk. But she did ballet. And that's when she felt, alive and things really changed for her through dance. But that also explains why she wasn't in rhythm. Because we all were looking at her like, why is this woman not in rhythm? With the, I got five on it. I got five on it. It's not hard, but she was counting on the ones and threes instead of the twos and fives. I said, and the son was looking at her like, okay, if you say so. Ah, um, but yeah, it also looked like the tethers couldn't or weren't supposed to. Well, I know they weren't supposed to kill Anadil because Red was in charge. But the tethers, for the most part, just kind of killed their counterparts. For the most part, for the most part, I'm trying to remember if that news reporter, if maybe that was supposed to be him, his clone killing him, or if it was someone else's, because it wouldn't make sense just some random. But yeah, classism, also some greed, envy, because Gabe was always envious of that other neighbor who had nicer stuff or made more money than him. And it was like, but compared to what a lot of people have, especially a lot of people who look like you, your family's great. I mean, you have a summer home, you have a beach home. Are you kidding me? Yes, it may be Annandale's technically family home, but then that's when I thought, wait a minute. What, did she also grow up privileged? Because ballet, that where that house was, that wasn't cheap. Therapy, it was just clicking. I'm like, what type of lifestyle were they living? anyway, anyway, that's it. All I have for you. I hope you enjoyed. If you didn't see the movie, none of this will really make sense to you. If you have, let me know what you think. Please like, comment, subscribe. I told you I wasn't going to go in order. Oh yeah, by the way, tomorrow's Wednesday, which means a new Romie Whispers ASMR video. And I think I'm going to do an unboxing as well as, a role play for the movie Us. I have to figure out that role play stuff, though. Thanks.